So we're on to our next guest speaker, Ann Holland, who's going to be sharing about how to run a successful Patreon campaign. In addition to co-founding What Cheer Writers Club, Ann Holland has been a publishing entrepreneur for nearly 20 years. Her specialty is inventing business publications for niche industries, including Subscription Insider for the online subscription industry and Marijuana Business Daily for the cannabis industry. She's also written nearly 24 business books under pen names, mainly on topics related to marketing. And although Ann does not have a Patreon, she's a big Patreon customer and has applied her business and marketing knowledge to create this presentation today. So let's welcome Ann.
Hi, studio audience.
All right, so
I don't know if it's Patreon or Patreon, but how many people in here actually have an active one right now? Yay, 1, 2. Anybody else? Who's considering having one? Absolutely, a bunch of you. Fantastic. I have so many friends with Patreons. Is it Patreon or Patreon? Anyone know? Patreon. All right. As everybody probably knows, it's been around for about 5 years. You actually
can you stand on that side, on the other side, because I can't.
Sure.
Thank you.
And the slides are different, so I may have to run back and forth.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just,
It's okay. No problem. The in general is for people with a pre-existing audience. If you don't have an audience, then build it up and then start one. Now this is actually true for almost every type of paywall out there. And Patreon is a type of paywall, right? You're trying to get money from people who want your content or who love your content. In general, overall, I have noticed as a content subscription reporter for a billion years, you're going to convert between 8 and 12% of your fans, readers, followers, into buyers, subscribers, members, whatever you're going to call it, as long as you have a consistent marketing campaign that's converting them and you're doing your best job. You're pulling a Marine. Doing a good job of marketing. So, Smart Bitches Trashy Books, one of my favorite podcasts, they only have an 8% conversion rate. So they have an average of 4,000 downloads per episode in 30 days. That's a good 4,000 people who are kind of their biggest fans. And they have about 311 patrons, which is roughly an 8% conversion rate. So it's 8% of their biggest fans have turned into people who give them money once a month through Patreon. They don't post that often on Patreon. They don't make a big stink about it. They make a little stink about it, but they have other stuff going on as well. If they pushed it harder, I have no doubt they'd get it up to about the 12% mark. I have looked at legitimately thousands of websites over the years and seen this data. So it is a numbers game. And it is a, gee, do I have Twitter followers? Do I have Instagram followers, et cetera, whatever I can have that are followers that love me. So, how much money are you going to make? People always talk about, oh, it's millions and millions of dollars that are going to these, to Patreon. Yes, millions of dollars will be made. When you come down to it, the average person who gives you money is not giving that much money. On average, the data this guy cites, this is Dan Olson over at Full Human, he's claiming that they are somewhere in like the $5 range, just over $5 is popular, the average amount of money you're getting per patron. I've seen it more in the 3s for a lot of authors that I follow. I think it probably depends on marketplace. Most of my favorite authors tend to be in the romance genre or in the feminist journalism genre, which are very genres, and they tend to be maybe a little bit lower. So here you go. This is actually just how much money it costs to get patrons on Patreon. So they're going to take a cut of every single pledge, and it's going to be somewhere between 5 and 12% at this time, depending on what they decide what cut they decide to take, and what services you decide to pick. You can pick some different levels of service. Plus, they're going to charge you credit card fees. Okay? This is the new system. Now, I don't like to say it's in stone because, it's always going to shift. It's like anything. in life, the cost is going to change over the years. However, when you consider that if you sold a book on Amazon, they're taking a much bigger cut.
Who is?
Amazon.
Amazon.
Right. So Patreon is actually not that big a cut. They have recently adjusted the micropayment rate, which is for any payment that's $3 or less, because there's a lot of pages that give $1 a month to all their favorite people. And you used to be where you'd only get like a nickel of that buck, and now you actually see something of that buck. So yeah, you can do the math and look at that. But I recommend, if you're considering Patreon, go for it. It's a pretty good rate, all in, considering what they're doing for you. It is remarkably easy to start one. Very low barrier, very intuitive, super easy. And if you wanted to add it as a paywall to an existing site, let's say you had an existing content site that you own, like a WordPress site or something, you could actually use it as a WordPress plugin and just pop it on there if you wanted to. I have not explored that, and there are a lot of competitors to Patreon for WordPress plugins. There's like 1 billion membership WordPress plugins. But I really like their intuitive usability, so I would consider them probably one of the better ones. They do a nice job of giving you tools that you can use for outreach and marketing. It's still, you're gonna have to do the marketing. It's almost like publishers these days. You can't count on them to doing the marketing for you. This is you doing your marketing, and you're just using this as a tool to collect the money, basically, and to make a nice enough looking site and to send out the newsletters and whatnot. They are, a better known brand name. The average person who is a Patreon customer, though, right now, only supports 1 or 2 people on Patreon. Now, so I'm an outlier. I probably support 18 different people. Because I'm like, oh, you're cool. I'll pay you $5 a month. Yeah. But, maybe I'm a freak. So the average person probably comes in because they're a huge fan of one person, and then Patreon does try to cross-sell and help them to get additional ones. And it's the consumers feel more and more comfortable, right? It's only been around for about 5 years. As consumers get more and more comfortable and they know what it is, they're more likely to add on additional ones. When you do add on additional Patreon as a consumer, you get one dashboard that shows you everything that you have, so you begin to manage your account and get used to it. It's a better cut than Amazon, and you can do Patreon and Amazon at the same time, which is lovely. And a lot of writers in particular, and cartoonists who have books, do that. The cons are you only get paid once a month, and there are minimums. So if you only had maybe $5 that month, you might have to wait a few months until it added up to a big enough amount for them to be bothering to send it over to you. You have to wait until the end of the month to get the money, or the start of the month. So your mom could have signed up to give you $100 a month, and she signed up on the 5th. Well, you're not going to see that $100 until the 30th. So you're going to get a monthly shot of money from all the different pledges that were made throughout the month. And of course, it's a subscription model, so anybody who continued pledging automatically. There is a problem of dine and dash, but I think it's over-exaggerated. So you're going to see people whining about that. Usually the people who are whining are actually marketing for other software systems.
What does that mean?
Dine and dash means somebody comes in, they say, ooh, I'm going to give $5 to this person to get access to their content. And they pledge the $5, but then they cancel before the month end, right? So the $5 never leaves their pocket. If you're that desperate to read the damn story, read this, okay. It's not that terrible a problem. A few people will do it. That is thievery. That is what it is. There are also people who steal PDFs. God knows what else. I wouldn't worry about it as much. So you will hear people saying, oh no, dine and dash, but it's actually not that big a problem, and I'm not going to worry that much about it. It is mostly younger people now. I'm seeing it slowly skew upward to being older. And people whine about the hamster wheel. We'll talk about the hamster wheel in a minute. There are ways around that. As you can see, this is this thing. Where are we? This is how the individual pledges have gone up over time. So there's more and more people pledging. But the payments are kind of evening out. So you've got a lot of people that are coming in, but not paying that much. Okay, top right Patreon writers. You can look this up, and you can look this up daily if you want to. There's a website that tracks this stuff. It's free. It's called Graphtreon. I think it's somebody's hobby. Thank God for that person. One thing that's interesting about the top right Patreon writers is, especially when you scroll through them, you start to notice they're kind of the kind of people that people get really fanish about. So there tends to be a lot of science fiction, there tends to be a lot of mystery, crime writing, things like that. And there tends to be humor, the kind of people who would have published on Tumblr before, maybe they would have published a cartoon or something on Tumblr, now people are like, oh, I love your sense of humor. So it's stuff that people want to follow almost in a serialized fashion, or it's people that are constantly putting out, stuff, and they're like, ooh, I'm a fan of this writer, I'm a fan of this genre. So those tend to work really well.
Wait, man, will you go back one?
Yes.
You didn't talk,
Hmm?
the one that the site search hides something else. Did you see that one?
The cons.
Down at the bottom of the cons,
Where are we?
right there.
Yes, sorry about that. If you are what Patreon considers not suitable for work in some way, sometimes if I plug your name in, I won't find your account, but your direct link still works. Their site search is hanky because they're, yeah. But most people don't go to Patreon and then look for your account, right? Most people are finding it on your Twitter profile or somewhere else. These are the podcasters at the top ranked, and again, scroll down through the rest of them and take a look. They're a lot, as you'll notice, some people you can see how much money they're making and how many patrons they have. Some people you can't see how much, that you can decide for your own profile what you want to reveal. So some people don't mind revealing, hey, I've got 5 patrons and I'm making, $73 a month. And some people hide it. It's all psychological, you decide what you want to decide. Again, though, you'll notice there's some lot of crime, Mueller, She Wrote, Crime Junkie podcast, some humor, true crime obsessed, but then as you go further down, you'll notice others. Cartoons and graphic stories, this is their listing for that. Graphatron slices them all out. So these are all cartoonists and illustrators that put out stuff. The nice thing is the range of content that you can put on Patreon, or that you can get Patreon fans for. All right, so there's one, Medieval People of Color. All they do is they tweet photographs of art from the Middle Ages that have people of color in them, because they're trying to refute, the Middle Ages wasn't all white. Look, there's an actual painting from, 1403, and look, hey, black guy. It's real. People go on Patreon to support this free Twitter stream, and they're actually doing pretty well. McMansion Hell, I love McMansion Hell. Is anyone else here a McMansion Hell follower? Yeah. She was an architecture student. She just graduated. Or is it they? I think it's she. And she takes photographs, she takes a picture, a screenshot of the ugliest houses for sale in America. She goes through Zillow, finds hideously ugly McMansions, mostly from the 90s, some more recent. And then she writes these scathing comments on them, on the picture. So she's like, oh, look at how ugly this is, look at how ugly that is. And that's all it is. It's hysterically funny. It started as a Tumblr. And she's actually now making a significant portion of her income publishing this. Huge following base. People hate these houses. Rose Lerner she's just a romance writer, and she's a regular romance writer. She just, kicks out a book every 9 months or so, and people love her books. She's particularly famous for having people who are different types of people than you would normally expect in historical novels. And of course, Jason Porath is an illustrator. He used to work at Disney, and what he does, he had a best-selling book that had historical stories about real women in history in all different countries who actually did amazing things, but you've never heard of them because their stories get kind of hidden over time. So he does profiles of them, and for his Patreon, he does a new profile once a month. And then they get published as books, and then he makes a bunch of money because they're bestsellers. So you can have all types of content. It could be journalism, it could be music, it could be a YouTube video series, it could be just a community discussion about something. It could be a podcast. You also, when you publish, if you happen to publish writing, you can publish it generally in almost any format you want. Some people, just like big-time science fiction writers, won't even publish their writing to their Patreon. People are just supporting them on Patreon. They might like write little notes about, well, here's how I did today. Gee, I'm feeling, my work in progress is not going well. And people are like, oh, come on, we need the next volume. So they just sort of write about themselves, their lives. Sometimes they'll do, oh, here's a little 500 words from my current work in progress. They can do all different sorts of things, but it's their big fans who are like cheering them on and helping them go. They may also, this is actually, I was gonna bring an actual, so this is a fake sample. Margaret Killjoy, who's one of my favorite science fiction writers on Patreon, when she publishes a short story a month, she's got a bunch of back content, so she's been going through once a month and publishing an old short story. And she publishes it in PDF, in a MOBI file, and also in EPUB, so whatever device you use to read stuff, you can access it. She also, for her top patrons, actually prints it out and mails it. Actually, she does it as a cute little booklet. I probably have 50 of the darn things at home now. It's a little stack in my library, but it's this size. It's just, it must be quite cheap, and it comes in a little envelope, and she handwrites your name and sends it out to you. I will never stop, because if you're somebody who wants to have the whole set, and she'll never stop publishing, so I'll just, be paying her $20 until I die every month. Now, when you start your Patreon, you want to start, if you can, with a video. A lot of writers just write a little intro like, hi, I'm this writer. You do better if you've got a little video to start it. It's just like Kickstarter. Kickstarters that do well always have a little video. Without a little video, the chances people are going to convert into patrons or Kickstarter payers is just it plummets. The data is just scary bad.
And that's
across every genre, everything. If you can have a little video, now it doesn't have to be beautiful, you don't have to have a video editor, you don't have to anything fancy. If it looks homemade, it's actually better because it feels real. The best thing is for the screen to start with a human being on it. So it's not the cover of your book, right? It's like your logo. It's either or a character on it. You could start if you wanted to do with one of your characters. But it's a recognizable human feature or character feature on it. So people feel like, oh, if I click this, I'm going to see a human being. You're going to get a much better click rate.
Bonus for animals.
Yes, bonus for animals. Yeah, absolutely. People are like, oh, I want to see the cat. Who doesn't want to see the cat? This is actually the entry video for a bookstore in Los Angeles. They've got their own Patreon, and they have different authors who will write little short stories for them once a month, and people just support them because they like the bookstore. So, and then they have their little write-up of why you should support them underneath it. The typical writer I know will just omit the video and stick their little write-up there, and it's like, oh, please, just a photograph, anything, please help me. You'll do better. All right, so this is really, really big, which is why I made this point enormous. You are not selling content with your Patreon, and most writers get confused. They think what they're doing is setting up a paywall and selling content. You're not. You're rewarding fans. It really is the primary motivation. Often those fans are getting your content other ways anyway, right? They're following you on Twitter. Maybe they bought your book in a bookstore. Maybe they listen to your podcast, right? Maybe they're following your cartoon on Tumblr. And this is their way to feel closer to you, to join your fan club, and to pay you a little bit so you can keep on doing the thing they love. And that is the emotional motivation, and that is what they're buying. So although you can use Patreon as a paywall, a lot of writers do, in the end, it really is a fan club mechanism. And even writers who do publish their work on Patreon, unlike Facebook, who are trying to compete with this now, Patreon does not assert any ownership over your copyright or any of your characters or any of your content. So you can take that content that you published, you can repackage it as a book and sell it on Kindle, and people do. Or sell it in the bookstore, or go out and get a deal with a mainstream publisher and say, hey, I've got 1,000 Patreon followers who've been going, oh my gosh, I love this thing you're creating, this wonderful book. It's gonna do better for you because people buy both. Publisher's gonna be so excited. Having a following that not only is excited about following you, but excited about paying, that can't be better. So then why do you have all these rewards? The reward is just to push the person over the edge because they're already kind of your fan. They're already like, yeah, I would kind of like to support that person. The reward is just to get them over that hump, to get them to actually, what the hell, push the button. A lot of writers and illustrators and other journalists kill themselves though because they think, oh my God, I've got to come up with like so much new content each month and it's going to be a hamster wheel. And so I want to start a Patreon only. I'm overwhelmed. I'm too busy right now. I can't cope. I can't hack with another, whole much more work. You don't have to do much more work. So I'll discuss it in a minute, the things that you could do that aren't that much more work. Start low with your price points. Absolutely go for the buck or the $3. There are plenty of people out there who are fans who cannot afford more than $1 and they really emotionally want to support you. And someday when they get that job or they get that promotion or something, they may even lift it. They may end up being your $25 a month supporter someday. But they really care. Let them care. Let them express that care. If you have a higher level, sometimes people will come up with something like at the very high level where they're like, there's only 3 of them available. Limited availability is a good trigger, right? People will, I'll take that one. Showing that one of them is sold out. Ooh, that's sexy. Ooh, so many people like this person I like that they sold it out. Ooh. They go and jump and grab the next one. That's sexy. So this is an example of one that's sold out. You can't get the $20 a month option anymore. Sorry, too late.
Is it worth planting a sold out?
No, you can't plant it. It has to be genuinely sold out. Now you can only have one. You can say, we're only gonna have one person at $37, but the $37 person's gonna get this amazing reward.
Yeah, it's more revenue.
Right.
Because it's, what, 30 cents plus 2.9 if you planted your own limited reward.
They're gonna know that it's you. You'd have to have like your friend go and buy it. I think you just really want it genuine. Besides,
Yeah.
the reward that you're gonna have sold out is gonna be one of the more expensive ones. But what you're saying is, if something that expensive is sold out, wow, what you're telling people is, you're telling them a story about, this is really valuable. Other people are willing to spend $20 a month for this. Wow, okay. And you might get them from $1 to $5 with that little one, It's just anything you can do to get them to a slightly higher, if they have the money, if they're willing to. So here's what I'm going to talk about, what you actually could give people. Honest to God, you can give them compliments. Smart Bitches, Trashy Books, there's a certain reward level where if you pay that reward, they will compliment you on air and they will make something up for the compliment that is so perfumed and glorious and, small children smile when you walk down the path and dogs want to be with you and you're the most wonderful person. They make these crazy, amazing, poetic compliments up that you're like, oh, I'm gonna go and get that reward. It's so much fun. You hear other people in the podcast and they're like, oh, this is a reward. Oh, yeah, I want one of those. It's not that expensive, right? It's nothing to them. They just make up a funny compliment and stick it in their podcast once a week. They do a different person each week, so it's not the same person each week. People voting for a character name, that's a big one. At the $20 level, next time I write a book, you get to pick a character's name. And you're gonna give them a range of names. You're gonna say it could be Marcus or Peter or Bob. Pick the one, and then they're gonna, pick it. If it's a podcast, you can allow them to suggest guests. Doesn't mean you'll actually have the guest on, but they can suggest it, and it's actually useful. They can suggest interview questions for the podcast, right? So you can say, oh my God, we've landed, Maureen for our podcast. What are the questions you want us to ask her while we have her on next week? And because you're at the $10 a month reward level, you actually can ask a question and we're gonna ask it on air. A handwritten postcard. Oh my God, there's one romance novelist who promised a handwritten postcard to everybody who gave him $20 a month or not. I mean, he ended up, I think he got like $3,000 a month for a while because everybody wanted their damn postcard. And everybody, then all his fans were taking pictures of themselves. Oh, it came, my postcard came, here it is. Pictures of the postcard, social media, boom, boom, boom. It was a huge success. It was huge. It was actually a pain in the ass for him to write all the damn postcards, but he did it. Signed books. I've definitely done that for a few Patreons where I was like, oh, I already have a copy of this book, but I'd love the signed one. Yeah. Rough draft served serial style? Absolutely. I know several writers, that's how they write. Legitimately. They sit there, they write their rough draft, they post it to Patreon. I know one writer who even gets her Patreon followers to do the proofreading. And then she publishes it on Kindle. I do not joke. Insane. First time I saw it, I nearly died. Are you kidding? Twitch writing. Does everyone know what Amazon Twitch is? It's if you're a gamer. Yeah, it's actually a revenue stream for video gamers. So if you're a video gamer, you can go on a service called Amazon Twitch, and people all over the world can watch you as you play. So they can see what your screen looks like, plus they can see your face and see your and they can write little comments like, oh, shoot that guy, or whatever they want to say. So there's video gamers out there, that is literally their living. They sit there, they play the game on Twitch, and their fans pay them to watch them play. It's insane.
The artists use it too.
Artists, there you go, artists use it too. And I actually know writers. I actually know a couple of writers who have sat there and said, okay, I'm gonna, if you're at the $20 mark, you get to watch me on Twitch every other Sunday. And they would sit there and write for 20 minutes, and you could see the typing on the screen. This is amazing if you're a serial writer and you want to, oh my God. It was a little weird, but hey, okay. Spotify playlists, I know quite a few authors that will do that. Here's, if you subscribe, every time I have a playlist for my character or for my next book or whatever, here's the Spotify playlist for this or that. Your name thanked in the book, that's a basic one. And the daily cat photo. There literally is one person who I followed because she writes this amazing feminist theory, but it's even a little high end for me. She's like a PhD and she uses lots of big words that I don't use. But every other day she sends me a cat photo. I will pay her until I die. That cat photo is so cheering. I can't tell you. I look forward to it. I'm like, oh. It's her cat. All right, so you can see, some people make up crazy names for their tiers. I think at least get a little creative. I like it when they have pictures. I don't know if it does better or not, but I bet it does. You can also set goals. You can say, hey, once I've got this number of patrons, I'm gonna do a thing. I'm gonna jump for joy. I'm gonna be able to quit my day job. I'm going to be able to do this or that. And there are people who've done that, and then that gives them a deadline. That gives them a way to constantly tweet out to their fans, hey, I have a goal of 300 patrons. I'm at 257. Can you help me make the goal? Think about it. So all these different things work. Once you've hooked them, you can keep on hooking them, right? You have to keep on being fun and exciting and, giving them things they want. But it doesn't mean you have to do a hell of a lot of work if you've established your tiers well. If you've said, yeah, I can give somebody a compliment on Twitter once a month. I can remember to ask them what they want the podcast guest to talk about once a week. I can post 500 words from my work in progress or from an old work in progress, whatever, once a month. start thinking through. Patreons tend to do better when you're posting more than once a month. If you're engaging people at least once a week, that's usually better. The cat per thing, I'm getting that two to three times a week, I'm getting a cat picture. Keeps me in mind. Keep on remembering it. Lady Science, they do different Patreon. Lady Science does biographies of women who were in science and history, and she does, I think they're doing once a week bios. So I'm getting new stuff all the time. Also, remember that it's your fan community. So if you're going to publish something for free somewhere else, sometimes the sexiest thing of all is early bird access. So if you're going to publish an article to your website or to your blog, if you could just post it to Patreon even a day or two before anybody else, even if it's not timely news, even if it's a picture of a dragon, it doesn't matter. Patreon will send it out and say, oh, because you're a patron, you got this picture of the dragon 2 days before anybody else. And that's sexy to a fan. That's like, oh, you feel special. You feel good. So again, it's less of a hamster wheel. Yeah, you have to come up with a new dragon every month or every week. But you're probably doing that anyway, right? This is probably something that's part of the work that you're already doing. Just post it a little early to Patreon, build it into your schedule, and then post it to your regular blog a couple of days later. So do what you can to come up with stuff that makes it less of a hamster wheel. Also, when people make comments, any kind of comment, respond to them. This is not like Goodreads where you're not supposed to say a word ever if they discuss your work. Oh my God. No, this is where you're supposed to step forth and actually engage because you are the Beatles and they want to talk to you. They're excited. So if they say, oh, I really like today's cat picture, you say, I am so glad, thank you for letting me know. Keep those conversations going. That will keep them, once people feel like they have an actual relationship with you in some way, not in an achy way, but just in some way, they're more likely to keep on paying every month. In part because they're more likely to believe that, oh, you're going to notice it if they fail. If they bail, you're going to notice it and they're going to feel bad and you're going to be like, oh. If you're doing a podcast, actually Jody came up with this. She and Jillian attended a speech about podcasting, and the podcaster had incredible 1374 patrons paying him $9,000 a month. It's not a bad income. This is a local podcaster. They're in Boston.
Here.
No, he's
They're in Providence.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. And he tested out what are the best ways to convert people who are listening to his podcast to turning them into patrons. And he said that the best was actually mentioning the Patreon in his intro to the podcast each time he did. So he tested that against a mid-roll ad where he actually made like an ad for the Patreon that he stuck in halfway through the podcast. And that actually makes sense to me because in general, people have advertising blindness, right? It's called banner blindness. But they also, commercial blindness. It sounds like a commercial, you're like, ugh. But if you actually just say, hey, yeah, and this, the dig is brought to you by Patreon, please God help us, keep the dig going. Here's how you go sign up, thank you. Or here's a cool new reward. Now let's go on with our episode. They're gonna hear that. And then he also recommended that if you do have a high profile guest, if you land somebody really cool and sexy, get them to record something in their own voice that doesn't sound fake. Don't give them a script or anything. Just explain to them, by the way, please pitch the $10 reward, thank you. And then see what they can do with it. And then you can run that as your ad. This is a journalist who has a nice patron. He's making $2,000 a month from 438 patrons. He's not a terribly famous journalist. He's a political journalist and not publishing his own stuff mostly, and he's a freelancer. He's a dad at home, as you can see. Anyway, he's pretty good about optimizing social to try to drive people who find him on social media into becoming his patrons. So this is his Twitter header. His website actually says Patron. So instead of sending people to his website and then from his website trying to send them over to Patreon. He just sticks the damn Patreon link right there. That's it. The Patreon takes the place of his website. You can sneak in often a second website address or at in your bio, so play around. I've seen people who've managed to get 2 different ones in there. Sometimes people will stick a Ko-fi in there too. Also, his pinned tweet talks about his Patreon. It's actually a pinned tweet from the day he started it, explaining why he started it. And he even, huh?
What in the world is it? What?
A pinned tweet. You can actually go into your favorite tweet or the most powerful tweet you think you've ever tweeted and pin it so it's the top one that everybody sees every single time they happen to go to your, and most people don't go to your thing go to your profile page unless they trip over you. Maybe somebody else who's a friend of theirs retweeted you and they're like, who is this cool person? I want to know more about them. And so they do what you call an up periscope and they go over and they go, whoa, who is this? And they look at you and they go, oh, that's what they look like. That's who they are. Oh, they got a Patreon. And who are they? Oh, this is more about them. Pinned tweets are really important. Even if you're not going to do a Patreon, for God's sake, do a pinned tweet. Use it to plug your site, use it to plug your book, use it to plug something or to explain more about the things you care about the most. And you can thread the darn thing so that if you've got like a very long thing you want to tell new visitors, great, now there you go, thread it. They really will, that pinned tweet gets more viewership than any tweet you'll ever write. Unless you have one that gets freaky viral. Anyway, so he then pushes over here. I would have had the images match, but I'm a purist. And then you go over and you say, oh, hey, maybe I should be his patron now. So he did the writer thing where he just writes a little, he wrote an intro instead of having a video. Bang, 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 bang. He should have had a video. Here I am writing. That's what he should have done. And then he has his recent stuff. And apparently I'm paying $2 per month. Fine. If you are tweeting, and tweeting is the #1 way to drive, if you're a book author, tweeting is the #1 way to drive book sales, Patreon sales, and if you're using, there's a version of Kickstarter in England, it's called Unbound. It's only for books, and they are coming to America in about 6 to 9 months. If you're doing that, they know, they can tell almost precisely how many books you're gonna sell via their system based on how many people are following you on Twitter. It's just insane. So Twitter's really powerful for people who really like the written word. Instagram really matters more than you think though as well. Anyway, so you need to continuously tweet about your Patreon to the people who follow you. You can't just rely on that little link in your profile, and you can't just rely on your pinned tweet. Because most people who follow you who are big fans, they practically never go to your profile, right? You just show up in their feed. So you've got to make sure that what shows up in their feed from you occasionally includes a little plug. Now don't be too marketing about it. Be cute if you can be cute, or just be genuine. But Alexandra Aaron, she tweets her brains out. So these are 3 plugs for, in this case it was for PayPal. One was for Patreon, 2 were for PayPal. You can have all of them at the same time, Anyway, this is all in a 24-hour period, intermixed with a metric ton of her tweets that she wrote about other stuff. So there's a signal to noise ratio that works pretty well. You need at least 25 tweets to each pitch, or people are gonna think you're just, icky marketing. So she tweets a lot. But note that that's 3 in 24 hours. By the way, if you like my stuff, support me. Here's another way of doing it. This is Feminista Jones, who is a very, very well-known feminist author. And Twitter actually made her. Now she's on speaking gigs all over the country and stuff. When she posts something new in Patreon, she takes a screenshot of it and uses it that screenshot as an image for her tweet. But it's, you can't see the whole thing. You're like, oh, we don't want to keep reading. Oh, damn it, I better go subscribe. It's very clever. So she writes, basically she's blogging in Patreon. She uses it as her blog. And then she's like, okay, yeah, but you gotta click through and go to my Patreon and read the darn thing. And she does a good job, and it was enough content that you could see in the screenshot that it was valuable, so people liked it, people retweeted it even, it got further out, it went a little viral. This one got 12 likes and looks like 6 retweets. This one got 3 retweets and something like 20 likes. I mean, her followers were willing to engage with that in a way that you don't tend to engage with marketing. Patreon also has a section on their website. This is actually just a screenshot of their website that gives you all sorts of tips and what all about, how to do better. So, why not watch the videos? The other thing you can do is Ko-fi. Now, this is not Patreon. So what I'm saying is I want you to do more than Patreon. Once you've got your Patreon set up, consider having other offers as well. That's because some people they're not Patreon people. Maybe they've got Ko-fi accounts. Maybe they just prefer that. Ko-fi started as a way to tip a writer, to just do a quick tip. Throw them like enough money for a cup of coffee. You like my tweet? Buy me a cup of coffee. You like my Instagram? Buy me a cup of coffee.
That's a one-time payment.
It's a one-time. They're trying to switch and compete with Patreon now, so they did start offering recurring, but I think it's confusing because everybody thinks of them as one time. So I don't know how well they'll do. I would rather keep both going and use Ko-fi for now as, you like this? What the hell? Buy me a cup of coffee. And so you can do both. So this person, this is a profile of somebody this is actually a tweet from somebody on Twitter in her regular feed. And she said, consider supporting me on Patreon, here's the Patreon link. And then she said, I also have a Ko-fi. So she pushes Patreon first, right? Because you're gonna get a better lifetime value out of the Patreon subscriber, because it's lifetime. Well, lifetime may only be 3 or 4 months, but it's longer than just one coffee. But she does pitch Ko-fi for people who are like, oh, I'm a Ko-fi person, sure, what the hell. Enough of those people out there. Ko-fi in particular is very popular with people who are doing long threads on Twitter. Hey, here, I'm gonna explain everything about the English Civil War, and at the end, like a full essay. What the hell, you like this essay? Was it useful to you? Were you educated? Buy me a coffee. Yeah, bang, why not? It's also really, really popular with people in the cartooning illustration.
Wait, you talk about what's the $6 a month gold?
Where are
The
we?
second one down.
Yes. Ko-fi is free, and they have a free tier. But if you want to do the recurring billing and make it like a Patreon, there's a little extra marketing crap. I don't think it'd be worth it unless I was doing a lot of marketing. I would just do Patreon instead. All right, so this is a typical Ko-fi profile page. She's got her picture. Hopefully it's the same picture that you're using in all your social media, so you're not swapping out. You want to keep the same visual clues throughout, have to be the same. Not time to get creative. And you can hear buy the person a coffee. Usually they're about $3 a pop. There's a little, here's what this person is, what they're doing, blah, blah, blah. These are different, mostly tweets, and from people who are also promoting Ko-fi. So here's one saying, here, for the grand reopening of my Ko-fi, for each coffee you buy me, I'll make a sketch based on a character you ask for. It looks like a pretty quick sketch, but hey, people will like, what the hell? Yeah, I'll do that. Somebody else said, if you buy me a coffee, you'll have access to everything that's been uploaded. It will be uploaded for the next 30 days. Okay. Here's one that just says, buy me a Ko-fi, period. I do all these wonderful things. She's a podcaster, a writer, an editor. Just buy me a Ko-fi. She didn't feel like Patreon. This one has a Ko-fi as their main link, but then also has a WordPress site, and then on WordPress I know it links to a Patreon. So you can do all these different things together at the same time. A lot of quote-unquote starving artists will use Ko-fi when they're desperate. So they'll use it almost kind of as a GoFundMe, only an artsy one. So they'll say, okay, I need to make my rent. You know, I'm desperate, I'm gonna be out on the street, help. Plus, you know, you'll get access to all these cartoons. Or plus I'll draw a picture of your cat or, you know, whatever. And everyone goes, okay, yeah, you know, we'll help you out. And the nice thing about Ko-fi is you get the money immediately. You don't have to wait till the end of the 30 days. It's not that thing where you're waiting the whole time. But you don't then get it on a recurring basis. Yeah.
Is this a website or app where you have a cache of things on it? Like you have
can now, because they're trying to transition into being a Patreon lookalike. But initially, it was just buy me a coffee.
like a feed with money, sort of?
Yeah, initially though, I mean, this is a very recent transition, so I believe now you can have your content behind a paywall there as well, but most people really just use it as,
I
give me
have
$3.
no idea what it used to be.
Yeah.
So what is it? I'm sorry, back up for me.
The reason why I'm talking about what it used to be is they've got an installed base of probably at least 500,000 people who routinely buy people coffee.
Is it an app? Is it a website?
It's a website, you have an account, and then you link to your account when you're trying to pitch people to give you money. So you link to your account and you say, hey, give me money. And the reason why it matters about what it used to be is what do the people who are seeing the Ko-fi link expect? And most people these days seeing a Ko-fi link expect just to give you $3 and be done with it, one-time transaction, bye-bye. They don't expect to even get any content.
So I've never heard of it.
Yeah.
I was like, is it like Twitter? Is it like, what is it?
Yeah, no. You would put it in your tweet feed. You might even put it in your Instagram header as your website. If you like my Instagram, buy me a coffee, things like that. You also can offer PayPal. Alexandra also asked just for PayPal directly. Now, why would you do these different things? And why would you do them all? Well, because some people really like to pay on PayPal. Some people really like to hit the Ko-fi button. Some people are just into being Patreon. And if you think if you have fans that all have their favorite preferences, why not allow for all preferences? And a lot of people I know who've gone to the trouble of starting a Patreon have immediately been flooded with people saying, that's great, but could you, I really want to pay with a Ko-fi. Do you have PayPal? And you're like, oh. Yeah, you're gonna have all the things. You know, let them, it's just sort of like if you're a store, don't just take MasterCard, right? Take Visa, take American Express, you know, take cash. Just allow them to pay the way they like to pay. Yeah.
There's one, I don't know if this is helpful, but in thinking of, in reframing PayPal as just a way to pay. Someone I knew like gave themselves a monthly budget that they used to support different artists and writers that they, you know, they were like, okay, I put $50 on my PayPal every month.
Oh.
Once it's gone, it's gone. But that PayPal, you know, having that transactional record
Yeah.
helps them, you know, and you can't, like your personal Patreon account doesn't let you do that. Like, you know, you
No, Patreon really wants you to just continue to support more and more artists.
right.
Yeah.
So like, you know, just more sort of expanding the mind about how
Why somebody would want to
yeah,
use
why
PayPal.
people
Yeah.
would be using different things for it.
Right, and they may be in a country where PayPal works and Ko-fi doesn't. Who knows what country they're in at that moment even. But yeah,
Great.
I mean, I have a credit card, but I'll always click the PayPal button because it's easier. And lastly, as I mentioned, repurpose and repackage. Remember that author I mentioned before who wrote her novel in Patreon? So she would post, it was about once a week she would post a new chapter, or chapters weren't that long, but in Patreon for weeks on end. And then at the end she said, okay, everybody proofread it. I know, yeah.
So, like, I make all these videos and they're on my Facebook,
Uh-huh.
but then I put them on, like, YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe instead of putting them on YouTube, I put them on Patreon.
Yeah. But I would at least for the first 3 days and say, okay, now I'm gonna, you know, you get, because you're my fan, my Patreon follower, you get this video for 10 days before anybody else.
Yeah. Yeah.
It makes them feel special. Plus, on the video, there's an area on every post they can comment. And you're gonna, because they're your fans and your patrons, you're gonna respond to those comments more than you would to a YouTube person. Yeah, so they feel so special. It's fantastic. Yeah, so this woman, she wrote the book, Earth Fathers Are Weird. Obviously, I had to read it. It's about a love story between a man and a tentacled, non-gendered beast. Like, how do you not want to read that? I got it at the level, it was the Patreon level, $3 a month, so I spent $18 on this book, reading it. About once a week she'd come up with a new chapter and I'd be like, oh yeah. And I'd be all excited about my new chapter, which is just absurd. It's the silliest thing. But everyone needs froth in their life. Then at the end, after she had people proofread it, and she, rewrote a few things and buffed and polished, she published it on Kindle for $5.99. It shot to the top of the Kindle bestseller list because people love this author. And I ended up buying this as well because, well, why not? It's much handier, and what the hell, I wanted a copy of it. So I have a copy on my Kindle, plus I still have access to her Patreon because I'm stupidly still paying $3 a month because that's me, I'm a fan. And so in the end, she got $24 just for this one book from me. Didn't even have to print it. And there's a lot of people like me. She's a very popular Patreon. I think she has 3 books going in at any one time, so there's always something coming out. So yeah, you can repurpose. And this is one of the reasons why when Facebook tried to come out with a Patreon killer a few months ago, everybody rose up in worry and anger because their terms of service were they owned your character. So you couldn't have repurposed it. Yeah, always check the copyright.
What did you say, please, the terms of service were what?
Facebook.
Under, I thought you referred to something else. Sorry.
No, Facebook. So just in particular, Facebook are just skeezy in many ways.
You
Use
said
them for marketing.
their terms were disagreeable or
Their terms were not author friendly. So use Facebook. Don't ignore them because you've got fans that are there. So obviously, I have to be there. But don't ever use them for money. Oh, thank you.
Any other
Oh,
questions?
God. There's no more questions, right? There's questions? Hi. So professional. Anyone have questions?
I do.
Do I do this for a living?
the book
Yes.
that you marked up? What was the author's name?
Margaret Killjoy. She's a science fiction writer out of North Carolina. She does not write fluff. She's a serious writer.
Do you happen to know what different podcasts are doing for awards?
No, but you could go look it up.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. I'll bet you it's